the complex number system. Now let's have a quick recap. We know that the square root of a negative number is not a real number. Okay, we tend to say you can't square root negative. Remember, you can't square root negative. So, for example, the square root of negative 1 is not a real number because there's no real number x such that x squared equals negative 1. Okay, you can't square two numbers and produce a negative. Let's have a look at this graph. Okay, can you see it doesn't have any x-intercepts? The reason is this. If I solve for this by putting it equal to 0, then take away 1 from both sides, now that will not give me any real answers. Okay, that's why. And you can see transformations, moved up 1, doesn't have any x-intercepts. Now then, if we define this, okay, important box here, okay? If we define the square root of negative 1 as the letter I, we can do some calculations, okay? So there is I equals the square root of negative 1. So if I square both sides, importantly, I squared is negative 1, okay? I squared equals negative 1, okay? Remember that for later. So let's have a look at some examples. The square root of negative 7, we can write that as the square root of negative 1 times 7. Remember, the square root of negative 1 is the letter I. I can't actually do anything with root 7, so there's the answer to A. Let's have a look at B. Right, the square root of negative 16, I can write as the square root of negative 1 times 16. Okay, again, the square root of negative 1 is I, but the square root of 16 is 4, so this is 4i. Okay, and similar to D, the square root of negative 64 will give me 8i. Okay, but there's a minus in front, so I'll write a minus in front, just a little extra step there. Okay, let me get myself an eraser. Okay, let's have a look at this square root of negative 48. Right, 48 is 16 times 3, because I can square root the 16. But also negative, so it's got a negative 1 in it. Okay, if I do this. Right, the square root of negative 1 is I. The square root of the 16 is 4. And I can't square root the 3, so just leave it like that. Okay, there you go. That's what that would be. Supposing I square rooted negative 45. Just another example. Okay. Then we can say we've got a negative 1, but 45 is 9 times 5. Okay. Or inside this square root. Again, the square root of negative 1 is I. Square root of 9 is 3. And I can't do the root 5. Okay. There you go. Just some examples. Right, what else can we do here? Let's have a look. Okay. The complex numbers are formed by adding real numbers and multiples of I. Here's the general, just read through that, complex numbers such as 2 plus 5i, okay, or 3 minus 2i, things like that, okay? Right, adding and subtracting. Let's add these two here. What's 8 plus 3? It's 11. What's 6i and 2i? It's 8i. And honestly, don't overcomplicate it. That's the answer, okay? Just like 6x and 2x would be 8x, okay? That's that. Watch your subtractions. Look at this. 4 take away 6 is negative 2. 5i, negative 3i. Double negative, 5i plus 3i is 8i. So watch your subtractions, all right? There it is down there. On to multiplication. Right, the important thing to remember at multiplication is if you get an I squared. If you've got an I times an I. Remember, I squared is negative 1. Remember that? Right there. Okay, let's have a look. So, what they're saying here is look at this. You can't just say root negative 2 times root negative 5. You can't say negative 2 times negative 5. Oh, that's positive 10. It's the square root of 10. No, wrong. Because this has an I in it. Okay, here it is. The square root of negative 2 is I root 2. Remember? That's square root of negative 7. I've erased it. Okay. So the square root of negative 5 is I root 5. Well, now root 2 times root 5 is root 10. But look, I times I is I squared, and that's negative 1. So it's negative root 10. Okay. Look at this one down here. Example 3. Right, now normally you might say that negative 16 times negative 25 is 400. Again, doing it the wrong way. And the square root of 400 is 20. But no, the square root of negative 16 is 4i. The square root of negative 25 is 5i. Well, 5 times 4 is 20, but I times I is I squared. I squared is negative 1, so it's negative 20. Let's have a look at some FOILs, okay? Some distributive laws. Right, 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3i is 3i. 2i times 1 is 2i. But here we go. 2i times 3i is positive 6i squared. Alright, I times I is I squared. So 3i and 2i I can add together, but look, positive 6i squared will turn into negative 6 because I squared is negative 1. So this is what I have to add together, all this. Alright? And there's the 3i and the 2i making the 5i, but look, 1 take away 6 is negative 5, and there's the answer, okay? How about 3 minus 7i squared? Well, again, if we FOIL it, let's actually do it as though I was doing a FOIL. Look at this. 3 minus 7i, okay, times another 3 minus 7i. Yes, you can use that little rule over there to the right. If not, you're going to do this. 3 times 3 is 9, okay? 3 times negative 7i is negative 21i. Again, negative 7i times 3 is another negative 21i. And finally, what's negative? Now here we've got down, basically we've got this down here. 9, negative 21i, negative 21i is negative 42i. Okay, not cancelled, negative 21i. Another negative 21i, negative 42i. And negative 7i times negative 7i is positive 49i squared. But I squared is negative 1, so it changes it to negative 49. So 9 take away 49 is negative 40. Still got the negative 42i. There it is. Okay, so that is you doing some FOILs, some distributive law, multiplication with i's. Watch the I squared. Okay.